Institutions Committee, it is February 14th. That date I remember really well. It's Friday, February 14th, and this is our afternoon meeting starting about 1 o'clock. And this is Vermont Housing Conservation Day in the State House. And we have some folks here who have been involved or are recipients from some of the projects that have been done through the VHCB board. So we have Abby White with us, who is the Executive Vice President of the Vermont Land Trust. The Land Trusts do work closely with Vermont Housing Conservation Board. And there is a partnership there. And welcome, Abby.
Thank you so much. So we're really pleased to be back in this committee again. I think we were here the same day last year, and there was the same celebratory feel in this committee. So we always feel very welcome. So I'll just do a quick introduction, and then I'm going to do a short testimony on Vermont Land Trust, just as an overview for the committee. And then we're going to hear from 3 other witnesses. We have Damian Boomhauer from Bittersweet Valley Farm, Cindy Reed with Cathedral Square, and Hannah Pickett, who is a resident of Champlain Housing Trust apartment. And so all of us are partners and beneficiaries of Vermont Housing Conservation Board, and either help to deploy those resources or benefit from them directly. So VHCC, in case you all don't know, we're a group of about 50 organizations, and we work in your communities throughout the entire state. Again, allocating the resources that VHCB provides that you all appropriate. We are a unique coalition of housing and conservation together. There's no other state in the nation that has something quite like this. And we came together over 30 years ago, recognizing that when housing and conservation work in collaboration, and we make those investments in a collaborative, complementary way, it's really communities that thrive. And so today we're going to talk about some of those examples for you. This year, we're asking the General Assembly to support full funding for VHCB, which would be about $36.9 million. That is the amount that the governor included in his recommend. So we're asking you to support it.
So for folks, that's within the general fund budget. That's an appropriations committee, and a lot of that comes from the property transfer tax.
Thank you. And then there's a smaller amount, 2.8 million, as we understand, that comes in the capital bill. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. And that's one of the reasons that we're here, is that there is some funding that goes directly to the HCB through the capital bill. And so, you know, with the property transfer tax continuing to rise due to high-end real estate transactions, we believe that now is the moment for a full statutory share to come to the HCB. It's really essential for ensuring affordability of both housing and land. So now is really the moment to do that. So today I'm joined by other folks who are going to introduce themselves and tell you their story. But I just want to start again with just an overview of Vermont Land Trust. So I'll go ahead and do that so you can all see the slide. Okay, so Vermont Land Trust. We were one of the very early partners of VHCB. We were founded in 1977, so we're in our 48th year, have conserved over 11% of the land in Vermont. That's over 640,000 acres. Our focus as a land trust has been on working lands, farms, and forests, so over 1,000 farms, over 450,000 acres of forest land. And these lands are in production, whether they're growing food or pasture land, or they're for wood products and maple sugaring. We also work very closely with communities and protect lands that are important to their well-being. And so we support access through entities such as town forests that are conserved in towns as well. Once land has been conserved, it is forever conserved, and we hold those conservation easements And it's our responsibility to ensure that the protections that are outlined in those easements are upheld. So we steward over 2,300 easements annually. In addition to that, there are some properties that we own, 44 around the state. We're a membership organization, people that donate to Vermont Land Trust from all over Vermont and the region and the world, really. 47 employees strong, located all throughout Vermont. We have an operating budget of just under $8 million. That doesn't include the amount that we often appropriate through or often spend through VHCB that goes out into communities in the form of purchasing development rights. And then we have 5 offices throughout Vermont. That's just a bit about us. A bit about what we do. There's really 3 things. We help people protect, care for, and connect to land. Protection is using a conservation easement, which limits what can happen on that land. It limits development. It also protects the natural resources, the soil, the water, the trees, et cetera, the natural resources found on the land. Caring for that land comes in the form of ensuring those easements are upheld, but there is also additional work that we do with landowners across the state to restore the ecological health of land. And so through our restoration programs and services, that's happening, and that could be related to water quality. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then through our education and outreach offerings, we help people connect to land, and that could be through events, that could be through trails and programming on lands that we own. I'm going very quickly, so if there's anything that you want me to pause, just interrupt at any time. Okay. So that's really what we do, and then how we do it are the tools that we use. I talked about conservation easements, which it's a legal place, permanent legal restrictions on land, limit what can happen on that land, mostly development. And again, it protects the ecological function of that land. Stewardship is ensuring that those promises are upheld over time. Through land ownership, we invest in people and places and invest in partnerships and programming to bring more people onto land. That could be through trails, it could be through community gardens, it could be through other community partnerships. Ecological restoration really runs the gamut. Anyone, and I'm sure you all are familiar with this, if you've been on any farm in Vermont, you know that there are wetlands on pretty much all land, but especially farmland. And a lot of opportunities that we see in partnership with farmers to improve the functioning of those wetlands that are on land. And that could be through either taking land out of production around rivers and streams. It could be doing tree plantings and restoration of stream banks to just, again, kind of improve the flow of rivers and streams on the land. And that becomes, of course, has become much more important now in this time where we're seeing a lot more flooding in Vermont and much more extreme weather. So doing that ecological restoration on farms and forests is really an important strategy for us. Forestry and land management, we have foresters on staff that work with forest landowners and help to develop forest management plans and advise them on best practices. We have another program that helps new and beginning farmers gain access to land and helps also to ensure a smooth transition between exiting farmers and new farmers that are coming onto land, and using conservation as one of those tools. And then finally, we have an entire events and storytelling and educational offerings to connect the rest of us, because in Vermont, it's not everyone who's going to be owning 200 acres of farmland. Most of us live in more densely populated areas. There are people who rent, there's people who don't own, and these people, many people need to be able to benefit from the investments of conservation, and that includes through our work and through VHCB as well. So that's a bit about what we do. Just a few highlights from our last fiscal year. We protected over 8,000 acres. That's about average, I would say, on a year. It can vary. Most of that is forest land, probably 2/3 forest land, 1/3 farmland. That's about what we do. We helped 7 farm families gain access to land, protected 38 miles along rivers and streams and 248 acres of wetlands, planted close to 8,000 trees on lands that have been conserved and also lands that we own. And then we hosted over 1,000 people at educational events.
So we have a question there, John?
Just go back. When you say you protected the 38 miles along the rivers, and the 248 acres of wetlands, what does that mean and entail?
That includes adding additional legal restrictions on those buffers around farms, around streams. And so it's taking them out of production, but it's also ensuring that you can't do agriculture practices there, or that you can't obviously develop there. Yeah.
So is that helping the rivers stay cleaner?
Yes, it's an important strategy on flood resilience to ensure that the rivers have space to meander and move. And then we do restoration to bring kind of more woody material along those streams and rivers to slow and store water so it prevents from damage downstream.
Thanks.
Yeah, if I could just have you expand on that briefly, like how well connected are you with the state and their plans for flood mitigation? Like, is this
Yeah.
a deliberate plan of where you're buying this, or is it
Yes.
kind of as it comes up, or? Yeah.
No, it's both. I mean, we have to work with willing landowners.
Yeah,
Conservation is a voluntary action that landowners take to basically give up some of their rights. We work very closely with DEC and help to deploy some of their resources. Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So we talked about this already a little bit, but in this moment, as we're seeing just stronger weather events brought on by climate change, more flooding in our communities, that has been a growing focus area for us, and conservation is an important tool to help build that resilience, build our community resilience to climate change. So forest land conservation is an important strategy for doing that, protecting headwater streams. You had asked before about prioritization, and there is a whole kind of statewide framework for where we want to be prioritizing, where the state wants to be prioritizing its investment. And so forest land conservation, focusing on those headwater streams, is one of them. Overlays and water quality protections, that is something that I also just spoke about. Is once we have a relationship with a landowner and once a parcel of land has been conserved, we can go back and look for additional ways to improve the ecological function of those landscapes. That is adding those additional protections. We also have some, right now, a pilot program on soil health where it's through a federal grant. We, knock on wood, hope that federal grant is preserved for us. We're working with a dozen different farmers around the state to test out methods of improving the soil health that also improve the productivity of the farmland. And so right now there's a payment for ecosystem services, a payment program that we're helping to run. It's, again, research to understand which of those methods have the best ROI for the business and for the climate. And then, of course, the landowner services and education that I spoke of earlier. Okay, so this is the piece that relates to your jurisdiction with opportunity to improve water quality. So section 10 of the capital budget includes 2.8 million for land conservation, agricultural water quality. And so those are resources that certainly would be helpful for us and be helpful for landowners that are seeing wetter and wetter farms. There's a photo here of Blue Ledge Farm in Leicester. This whole area that you see right now on the screen is a wetland protection zone. It's this is a goat farm. This is out of production, and this is an area that floods year over year, and has investment here has made kind of measurable impact on what we're seeing downstream in the city of Middlebury, or the town of Middlebury, since there's been kind of more conservation around these wetlands upstream, they've been seeing less impact in the town itself. So just some stats that I pulled from VHCD itself. So since 2019, using some of these resources that are again in the capital bill, VHCB has helped to protect 80 miles of buffers, added 80 miles of buffers on farms, and protected 1,400 acres of wetlands. Now I just have a few examples just to kind of show you what this looks like on the ground. But here's an example from Cambridge, a Valley Green farm. It was initially conserved by the Tisbert family in 1992, so one of the earliest farmland conservation projects that was funded by VHCB. It was a dairy farm, and over time it has diversified to organic veggies and flowers. There's a farm store, there's different events, they're hosting bike trails. And just last year, as a result of kind of our ongoing relationship with this landowners and this farm, we were able to protect 64 additional acres. And again, this was funded through DEC. And so you can see here in one of the photos that wetland complex was one of those areas that was taken out of production.
So could you expand, do you know, that's in DEC, I want to make sure we're on the same page. Is that Department of Environmental Conservation?
Yes, thank you.
And do you know what they funded? What they did?
I can find out the exact amount on this project.
Just was it dealing with the bike trails at all, or was it?
It was adding additional, so when you add additional protections, there is often a payment that accompanies that because the farmer is taking that land out of production. So there's an exchange of value that comes through those payments.
Right, but that's what I'm wondering, what the Department of Environmental Conservation, or what level they would have been involved in, if it was like stormwater permits or other.
It wasn't through permitting, it was through the grant program.
So that farm's on Route 15, I think.
I
The
think, yes,
Cambridge.
yeah.
So was it the ag, was it land on the riverside of 15 that had protections put on it? That's
I don't
curious.
know I can find out which part of the farm that I'm showing here on the screen, just one of the wetland complexes, but
Yeah,
I can
well,
get more
I
information.
drive by that one all the time.
Okay.
That's curious, but just uphill of the silos is a pretty good pitch. So I mean, that's not
Yeah,
ag land. So it'd be good to know.
okay, I can get that for you.
Cameron?
Is now the appropriate time for me to ask, when you say protection, other than having the land lay fallow, what other protections are you doing or accomplishing with the 64 acres? Your chart says you've enhanced protections on 64 acres.
Yes,
So tell me-
exactly.
Define protect for me, please.
So in this case, there are certain ecological features on the land that are being protected, where we might be going in and spending additional time and energy to restore, to add trees and shrubs to kind of bring the water quality of that area kind of back to health, if you will. So when there is so this had been land that had been kind of open for agricultural use. And when we say we're going to protect that, you're saying you can no longer have agriculture kind of happening in this area. It has to be open and kind of free. And so it's through that,
So you're leaving it fallow. They can't plant on it.
right?
Okay. All right. Anything else? They can't build on it, I assume.
They couldn't have done that
Drill a
anyway.
well
Yeah.
on it. They can't use it.
Right.
They gotta leave it alone.
Leave it alone or restore it. Yeah.
Well, don't they have the development right? Didn't they? I mean, when it went into conserve land, didn't they sell, the development rights are sold off?
The development rights were sold.
So you can't
Yes.
develop to begin with since 1992. That was part of the work that the Tisbet family did to protect their farm operation and to protect the land. They entered into working with the land trust and they sold off their development rights. So it's protected in perpetuity.
Right.
Well, and that's what prompted the question. When you say enhanced, that's what I'm trying to understand is what changes.
The change is taking it out of agricultural production. And when there's a buffer that's put around, say, a wetland or a stream, it means that agriculture can't have it in the buffer.
It protects your waterway, it protects that wetland or it protects that stream.
Yeah.
From runoff from your farm fields.
Right.
You have a buffer from where the activity of the farming is to the waterway or wetland. You have a buffer there and you don't grow anything or produce anything.
Right. And a lot of these areas weren't particularly productive for farmers anyway, where they were at risk of flooding and crop losses. And so it's often a win-win, especially when the farmers then receive that payment to stop farming in that area.
If that's a piece that I think it is, but you can get back to it. But it's like just a little bit upriver of the wrong way bridge that floods, like, it floods at normal years.
And would I be correct in assuming their taxes on those 64 acres are also reduced?
That is a good question. They would be in current use, so I'm not sure if they're,
They being current use.
yeah.
So you pay the current use, the way current use operates is the state picks the landowner, the farmer or the owner of the forest property qualifies for current use. The landowner pays property taxes based on the use value of that property. So the property is assessed at fair market value. The owner of the property, if they're in current use, would only pay the part that is based on the use value, which is usually a lower assessment than your regular assessment. The state picks up the difference for that. So that comes out of our general fund. I believe it's not out of the ed fund. It's out of the general fund. So general fund dollars go to help our farmers stay in farming and our forest management folks stay in forestry. The state picks up the difference between that use value of farmland or the use value of forest land. So the landowner only pays property taxes based on that use value, and the state picks up the difference for the full assessed value. So it helps people stay in production for their farmers. The state's had that program since the 70s, late 70s, I think.
Yeah.
One more and I'll stop. In a situation like this, can you hunt on that property or what other restrictions are there?
It's up to the landowner, wouldn't it be?
It's up to the landowner to make that determination. In many of our easements, it is public access is allowed. It often sounds like distributed public access, so hunting, yes.
But that's a negotiation between your organization and the farmer or the person holding the.
Farmer and you,
I'm sorry.
the farmer and you.
Okay, so negotiation within that legislation, you said.
The farmer and the hunter.
The farmer and the hunter.
Oh, so this, okay.
Yeah,
So that's not a restriction.
it's not, no,
Yeah,
we,
got it.
yeah, we,
The easiest way just to make it very general. What you're doing when you do this is you're either going to protect the natural setting that's there now and not have it encumbered by, say, cows crossing or, land being tilled, or you might be vegetating or some other kind of thing like that will help further protect the wetlands or other property. It's just, that's the very basic level of what this is. There's obviously more science involved in it, but at the very high level, that's what that is.
But it does lower the tax revenues is what I'm hearing. The state's gonna pay the difference.
But not because of this.
The town does not lose the
And
revenue.
it's not because of land trust. So your taxes, not to get too deep into this, is because of current use.
Right.
So the current use value, like say maybe a fair market value is $2,000 an acre.
Right.
Current use might say it's $178 an acre. The tax base makes up the difference, so through the general fund. That's completely different than the land trust. Land trust, there's never been a case that I'm aware of in the state of Vermont has lowered fair market value. So that's a completely different issue altogether.
Current use and land trust is totally different.
there, yes, exactly. Current use and conservation are often complementary, where I would say all of.
Be in one without the other.
Right, you really can't. If land has been conserved and it's working farms and forests, they're most likely registered in current use as well.
They have to be a working farm.
Yeah.
And a forest has to be under a forest management plan. For that. And those are criteria for current use. Just separate from land trusts.
That's right. That's right. Current use is a tax program.
It's a tax program that the state helps farmers and landowners stay in their property and work the land and keep farms and the land working.
Enforced.
Right, and it's a state investment to do that.
Yep.
Brian?
I don't know if the question's been answered and maybe it's beating a dead horse, but it was sort of Kevin's line of questioning, and I'm wondering if the questioning is meant to ask, if this land isn't being tilled anyway, what does conserving it gain us? I don't know if that's where you were going.
No,
No?
I'm just asking questions. I'm not for or against. I'm just trying to understand the program. right?
Yeah, well, then, yeah, and I'm trying to understand too. So if it wasn't being worked anyway, what is gained by conserving it? What changes, I guess?
I see Mr. Damian Boomauer as a.
Yeah.
Could you just identify yourself for the record?
Damian Boomauer. I keep on hearing that you're talking about agriculture, you're only thinking of tilling.
Yeah,
It's also about livestock.
yeah,
So therefore, that land, if it was near somewhere where they were pasturing, that land would be fenced off, so therefore the cows can no longer go in there. So it's not just about cropping, it's
Yeah.
not just about crops, it's also about cow management, or not just cow, but livestock management.
so that goes back
I don't
to
know if that
James's comment
explains a little
too.
bit better.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I wanted a concrete example. That's exactly.
I didn't want to overstep, but.
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I was asking, yeah.
And to further, like, so what Damian's saying, and also it's like the cows aren't trotting through there and
Yeah.
back. But also you're keeping the manure and other stuff further away from the wetlands, et cetera. So it's not just tilling land. I just happen to say
Yeah.
that.
No, thank you. That's useful.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from me. Unless there's other questions, I want to make sure we leave enough time for the other witnesses. Okay, so Damian, why don't you come up and tell your story?
Yay. Are you related to Michelle Boomheimer? Oh,
Could be.
yeah,
That was gonna be my question.
Not close.
Where's she from?
well, she works with the Agency of Transportation, so that's how.
Yes, I am actually.
Not your mother.
No.
Cousin.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, we're a small state. so we're all interconnected.
Tell me more about the person before I admit to being related.
I learned that from you, James.
Yeah, well, basically.
This is not your number. If you could identify yourself for the record.
Damian Boomauer.
Welcome.
Thank you. So just a little bit about myself.
We already know you're related to Michelle.
There you go. End of story then, right?
Just the beginning.
So we have a 60 cow organic dairy up in Fairfield. We've been organic since 2005. We've been part of Land Trust since 1992. My grandparents are the ones that did that. We have we're diverse with we also tap about 4,000 maple trees and very active in the community, on the fire department for 25 years, head of the recreation committee, on school boards, all that fun stuff. I'm the fourth generation on this farm. Me and my wife purchased it in 2012. And the project that we did do with Land Trust or was it DEC? DEC funded was a river corridor project where easement. So in 2007, what we did was we already had a long-standing project going on with NRCS on the farm for water quality. And in 2007, what we did was we had a stream that went through the farm. It constantly flooded and there was always constantly erosion. So dealing with NRCS and the state, Land Trust, and also with wildlife, we came up with a project where they engineered it and they dug down floodplains. So therefore, rather than having, where you just had a corridor where the river or the stream was running through, you now have 20 feet on both sides of that stream for once the water got above the normal running stage, it would slow the water down because it's not just running through one corridor. So did that 20 feet, it was, and all the way down through the stream, planted willows, and also any of the corners that were getting eroded, put riparian buffers, which is just big pieces of rock jammed right into the side. And I can say that it works because we've had some pretty major floods here since that's been put in. And we have not had any problems at all. It slows it down. I mean, the willows have, it's nothing but willows in there. Yeah. You know, we have NRCS and other places come and take branches off the willows and do other planting projects, so I was glad to let them come and do that. And the wildlife has definitely been an abundance. I mean, the geese, duck, deer, you see, I mean, blue herons there's like 6 of them. We had bald eagles there. I mean, so you're seeing quite the change. And also part of the project was fencing. That's why it kind of, I was going to wait till I talked to answer, was fencing the animals out of that area and putting in pipeline for water for the animals and troughs. So that way the cows aren't drinking out of or hanging out in the brook. So out of an area that was probably, I don't know how long, probably 1,500, 1,800 feet long. The cows don't go in there at all. The only part they touch is a 12-foot wide path across. And once they're across, gates closed, they can't go back until it's time to come back to the barn.
So it sounds like between the land trust and state investments, it's really helped your family keep that property in the family
Yes.
and helped it being productive.
Yeah.
And you've been able to earn a living with it.
Yes, and
Difficult, but
One Organic was a big part of that too, which
do you sell raw milk at all or is it pasture you? Okay.
No.
It's pure. So it really shows the connectivity here of state investments in helping the land trust being able to be viable, but helping current use, helping our water quality situation through the Department of Environmental Conservation. Those are all state dollars that work through our general fund. That's so we can make the connection with appropriations here, that this is where some of our state dollars are going.
actually after that project in 2008, we were awarded with a water quality award after doing that project.
Wow.
It was,
Because you're in the Lake Champlain Basin too, water basin.
yeah. Yes. If there's any,
Questions? Thoughts?
It's cool.
Sounds like you're doing it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
very much.
We
Don't let
do
it
have
go
a
to his
question.
head.
No.
Questions?
Is that running yet?
Not yet, it's too early.
couple weeks.
Just when usually begin town meetings, when you usually used to go out to tap your trees. Not anymore.
Years done.
Well, not this year.
2 weeks.
This year feels pretty normal.
sign.
Pretty normal. So far.
And next up, we have Cindy Reed with Cathedral Square, so these are some examples from housing stuff.
Hard to follow. Inspired.
Nancy, Cindy, you just kind of scroll through. Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. I'm hoping I'm not reaching you in the blood sugars. Already.
Good.
And happy birthday.
Okay.
I'm Cindy Reed. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at Cathedral Square. We're a nonprofit, affordable senior housing and services provider, mainly Northwest Vermont. And when I'm here as part of Vermont Housing Conservation Coalition Day, which is always celebratory for us because of all the wonderful investments that the HCB's made. And I also want to recognize we have a board member here, Nancy Snyder, who's on our board and also one of our residents. So thanks for being here. During my 12 years with Cathedral Square, I've witnessed the need for affordable housing grow exponentially and also seen the transformative nature of affordable housing with services on our older adult population. We have over 1,100 people on our wait list for both independent living and assisted living. And it's imperative that we continue to invest in affordable housing. And I know you're hearing a lot about this today and every day. I want to tell you about 2 affordable housing developments that we're currently working on both are in Franklin County. And in the city of St. Albans, we're constructing Reed Commons, which is up here, which is 33 units of affordable senior housing for older adults 55 and older. We're about 65% complete. We hope to open in August. We have already 181 people on our inquiry list. So we anticipate a very quick lease up and an immediately long wait list. This is on a site in town in the city called the Fonda Lot. People call it the Fonda Lot. It was an old brownfield. I know people are shaking their heads. Yeah, Fonda Lot. Anyway, the city worked for over 16 years really hard on bringing together resources to clean up that brownfield and make that site development ready. It's just half a mile from downtown St. Albans. And they've made great progress. So in the back of the site is the new Railroad Dispatch Center, which I think opened in 2023, which is an amazing hub. We're in the front of the site, which is 33 units for older adults. And then next to us is a private developer who's going to start construction hopefully in June on 87 units of market rate general occupancy housing. So altogether, it's an exciting, vibrant new neighborhood. There's a new city street, which goes behind, which connects it all with a big sidewalk, which is going to eventually connect to the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail. So it's a great new neighborhood, pedestrian friendly, close to goods and services, and on a major bus line. So great place for all kinds of housing, great place for older adults. So we'll offer 33 apartments, a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. We will serve 6 people coming out of homelessness, and the other 27 will be coming from various kinds of living situations, including homeownership. We have 8 rent subsidies to serve the lowest income, and then we have a mix of rents to serve a variety of income levels. So a few of our things that are very important to us, one is accessibility. We have double railings on each corridor for holding on for steady. 2 elevators for resiliency, step-in showers. We don't really have bathtubs anymore because of need for mobility and access. So those are some of our accessibility features that help people age in place safely. I'm going to try to go quick because I know we're short on time. We also offer services, which is a critical part of our model. And I'm sure you've heard about SASH, which is support and services at home, which is a care coordination program that we serve around the state through many, many partners. And we'll offer SASH here, and that helps older adults age in place with the supports they need. We also offer our own housing retention program. So for some of our more vulnerable residents, maybe those that have come from homelessness or those that have, are having certain challenges, we help work with those residents to help keep them housed, prevent evictions, and prevent additional homelessness. We're also, we're very excited that we're going to have a partnership in St. Albans with the Northwestern Counseling and Support Services to have an on-site mental health clinician. And when we have services on site, it destigmatizes getting access to those. We're actually serving more men in that situation because men have a harder time bridging to those services. So we're trying to break down those barriers and make it easier for people to thrive in their housing. And let's see, lastly, I did want to say that we feel that building new senior housing is a win-win because older adults that move out of their maybe large house in the city move there, and it opens up housing opportunities for younger households. So it win-win. And last, I want to say this is a really energy efficient building. We only build energy efficient buildings, but this one supports state energy goals in its geothermal heating and cooling, which we're very psyched about. So it's a fossil fuel free building, which is very hard to say, especially fast. And, yeah, so we're really jazzed about that. And we use the federal investment tax credit, which brought in over 1.2 million for this project. Our next project, we're too fearful of relying on that program because we don't know if it's going to exist. So, but here we have it, and we're really jazzed about having geothermal. And then the next project I want to tell you about is Highgate Village Housing. How do I use?
Probably a little bit, maybe.
Okay. Down there. Is Highgate Village Housing. It's a proposed 30-unit affordable senior housing community in their village center. In 2023, the town of Highgate asked us to come and help build senior housing in their community. They've worked for over 6 years on a vision for their village core. They're seeing seniors have to leave their community because of lack of affordable housing, and they maybe have a big home and they need a downsize because their big home is costly to maintain. So right now they're seeing older people have to leave their community and their friends and family and their support network in the town. So they want their own senior housing right there. They're really a small town with a big vision. Underscore that. They have already made a lot of progress. They modernized their bylaws to incent dense development. They're working on a water wastewater disposal system to serve the village core. They've completed environmental reviews and started a corrective action plan on the brownfield. So like our St. Albans project, that was a brownfield, this is a brownfield. These projects have multi-positive ripple effects. They have a designated village center. This is where they want to see growth and development. They've acquired land to support this housing and library development. So the housing is that building, and then the proposed library is this one.
I probably said this when I was out of the room, but where in Highgate is this?
It's right in the village center.
Right by the St. Armand Road.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
right by St. Armand Road,
Thank you.
right from the school,
Gotcha. Thank you.
right near the little post office.
Thank you.
It's a tiny little post office. Really a small community with a big heart. The Northwest Regional Planning Commission's 2022 housing needs assessment indicated a need for 1,600 housing units in Franklin and Grand Isle counties to serve older adults and people with disabilities. They also talked about the current unmet housing needs is so significant that catching up will require a sustained long-term commitment. So we're trying to make a difference in one part. This town really wants this, and so we're working with them.
Going back to this, the St. Albans project is in a district that I represent.
Mhm.
And I know this isn't a capital bill project, it's a great project, but how was it? So $1.2 million, the federal tax credit of some sort.
Mhm.
What were the other funding sources?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's about 18.
So. Second version.
So the biggest one is federal housing credits. And that's an IRS program that invests in affordable housing with an investor partner. So M&T Bank is our investor partner, and they get federal tax credits, which Vermont Housing Finance Agency allocates to us. And
Okay,
then we get them to the bank, and the bank invests. So the bank invested 8.2 million. VHCB invested 5.8 million. And we could not do this project without VHCB.
what are those
So-
tax credits worth? The 90 cents on the dollar, like are they?
Yeah, the federal one we got, we actually got an incredibly great yield. It's 91 cents on the dollar. And then the investment tax credit was 97 cents on the dollar.
Oh.
And then we also have a state credit of 91 cents on the dollar and a 45L energy credit of 92 cents on the dollar. And this is just to show you that these are really complicated financing structures, and we have to hold it all together, federal, private, state, and local, to make it all work. We did not need Act 250 because it was a priority housing project that helped a lot. So thank you for working on the Act 250 changes because that saves time and money. So did I answer your question?
Within the time allotted, yes.
But I'm happy to talk more with you. because-
Yes,
because we're in
I'm
the
curious
community
about
and
the
we're-
Highgate
Yeah,
project too.
okay, I'd love to talk more with you. And then like, I'm gonna try to wrap it up here. Oh, and then also Highgate is near the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail. So we love the rail trails and we love connectivity and providing and locating housing where it makes sense.
And
So,
also the Highgate Arena.
and the Highgate Arena, I forgot, but that's totally cool. So we want to keep older adults in their communities by providing affordable, appropriate, safe housing with services. And it's independent living, but we help avoid institutionalization. So we want quality of life for older adults really, really badly. So these two projects share three important commonalities, more than three, but VHCB was an early essential funder for both. We could not do this work without VHCB. And they believe in us and they help us. Both projects will be permanently affordable. And so we serve low income residents now and into the future, and we protect that public investment, which we take very seriously. And then third, both projects are exempt from Act 250, saving time and money, but regulatory relief alone is not enough. We need the capital as well. So per Abby and Davian, we love you to support the governor's recommendation of full funding for VHCB at 36.9 million. And without it, we couldn't do what we do. And I'm going to stop there because I know there's more. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
So really quick, so like you said, institutionalization, like you want to avoid that. What do you
Yes.
mean by that? Keeping people out of nursing homes?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's kind of, that's an extreme measure, but
Yep.
we want to, if someone goes to rehab, we want them to be able to come back into their home safely.
Gotcha.
If they're in the hospital discharge nurse will call our SASH coordinator and say, Mrs. Jones is coming home. Maybe let's figure out what they need to stay safely back in their apartment, because we want to avoid going back to the hospital and we want to make sure they can remain there safely. So our on-site staff connect with the wider world, like the discharge nurse and that kind of thing.
And if they're in their houses, they really can't go back to their houses.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And are those services provided for free or on an a la carte basis, or how is that? I mean, some people need them and some people
Right.
don't.
Yeah, great question. So SASH is a Medicare funded program. And we get some Medicare money and some state money through a different budget, not this, and then some from our operating budget. So it's a bit of a patchwork quilt. Residents do not have to pay anything. So they have SASH, they have housing retention, and then we're having this mental health program because we're seeing like our average resident has 7.6 chronic conditions.
Mhm.
So it's really, it's amazing. And we want to keep them housed, in these communities where they thrive with other people.
Mhm.
So really, my message is housing with services saves lives.
Mhm.
As we see it. And
Very familiar.
Can you say what the funding sources are for SASH again?
yeah, SASH is Medicare,
Which is federal.
which is federal, and then there's state money, and I'm just not as versed on the SASH world, but I'd be happy to get that information to you.
But it's a combination of federal and state dollars.
Correct.
And state dollars are general fund dollars. They're not out of here
Correct.
for the committee.
And we have a SASH coordinator and a very part-time wellness nurse. But I can get back to you on more on.
I'm just curious what the funding was for
Yeah.
that. And you must have worked with that in human
We did. I was
services.
gonna say, just the idea of upstairs going wraparound services, but like, it's a no-brainer, should be. But I just want to thank you, for at least for the Franklin County people, for investing so heavily in our county and helping our citizens.
Thank
You
you.
know, maybe not Bennington County, but.
They got the monument.
I know.
All I can do is ask. We'll come back.
Thank you so
That's
much.
the first thing we've seen in 6 weeks.
I'm just happy. I'm just trying to be happy on Valentine's Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're in trouble.
I'd just like to add something. I'm a resident in a Cathedral Square apartment. Mine is in downtown Burlington. And it's fairly new. It's only 3 years old. It's right on the bus route. It's right next to UVM for healthcare. And we have these services that this genius. She is so good at putting these finances together. We're so grateful for that. It's been a really good experience, but it's a very mixed population. And so it's your grandmother maybe, or your mother, but there are unhoused people living there. And putting that whole cocktail together is very complicated. Not only the financing, we thank you for that, but these social services have to really support a very general and diverse population.
Right.
It's a good deal.
Thank you.
There's a 2 or 3 year waiting list. And we all know that we're getting more seniors in Vermont.
Yeah, well, we know
We all
that.
know that. So this is serving a population that's only gonna grow.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have
Hmm?
one more witness.
Yeah, Nancy, could you just identify yourself, just for the record, that's all.
Nancy Snyder from Burlington.
Thank you for your comments. Okay.
Our last witness.
Hello.
Hannah?
Hi there.
Yes, I'm Hannah Pickett.
Hannah Pickett. And you're a resident of Champlain Housing Trust.
I am, excuse me, Zephyr Place resident. I live in Williston, Champlain Housing Trust.
Could you just identify your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Hannah Pickett.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Hannah Pickett, as I said, and I live in Williston at Zephyr Place, where I'm a Champlain Housing Trust resident. I am not homeless because of the work that CHT has done with the support of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. I want to tell you my story of hardship, resiliency, and hope. I grew up in the beautiful state of Vermont. I'm 37 and a graduate of the Community College of Vermont with a degree in medical assisting. I loved working in healthcare, helping providers, connecting with patients, making a difference. But in 2018, I was rear-ended in a car accident. My glasses came off my face, everything in my car went flying, my glove box opened from the impact. My car wasn't badly damaged, so I assumed I was fine. I was not fine. I had lost basic skills like reading comprehension, math, telling time, problem solving, and I suffered from daily migraines, exhaustion, and confusion. I lost my job. I had limited income and was eventually evicted right before the pandemic. I was so sick and stressed from financial instability, I lost all of my hair. Upon eviction, I had nowhere to go. I lost most of my belongings, including my 15-year-old support cat, and I was completely on my own with a damaged brain. I was overwhelmed, scared, and confused about what to do. It was exhausting being exposed to the weather. I was having PTSD attacks, losing time, blacking out, not knowing where I was or what I was doing when they ended. I was very vulnerable, frail, and weak. I was also falling asleep in public. And as a single woman, this is very dangerous. I had difficulty finding shelter. We don't have enough shelters, and we certainly don't have enough housing. After some time, I was hospitalized, and it took me about a month and a half to regain all of my strength to leave the hospital. A nurse case manager helped me apply for disability and the emergency hotel program during the pandemic. Without a stable address, I would have not been able to apply for Social Security or secure my housing. I finally located my emotional support animal. He was with animal control and about to be processed to be sent to a shelter. Conditions at the motel were rough, but I had a roof over my head and I was very grateful. If it were not for the emergency hotel program, I would have not survived due to my disabilities and my poor health. My nurse case manager helped me connect with CHT, leading me to secure my housing once my Section 8 voucher was approved. It is typically a 5-year wait for Section 8. There's a lack of affordable housing for the low income and disabled in Vermont. My Social Security benefits would not cover 1 month's rent for a 1-bedroom apartment at market rate. I moved into a CHT apartment just in time and finally had a safe space to rebuild my life. My apartment is beautiful, spacious, and full of light with large windows. Minu loves to watch the birds. I like to bake and share goodies with my neighbors. There's a view of Camel's Hump from the kitchen where I have coffee every morning. And when I walked in, I knew that we were finally home. Most people are unhoused for reasons like losing your good health, such as myself, leaving an abusive relationship, trauma, a death, falling behind on rent or mortgage. And because of my housing, I'm safe, healthy, and even happy. I have not had a PTSD-related event in 2 years. And as you can see, I now have hair. Yeah, thank you. And I have my cat, yeah. So this is what stability looks like. Today, I live at Zephyr Place, a former hotel converted by CHT into 72 apartments using VHCB's funding. Many of the residents share a similar or more difficult story. We have a sense of community at Zephyr Place with monthly coffee hour, ice cream socials, and gardening activities. These things matter so much to us. Our resident services coordinator, Katie, helped me turn my hobby card making into a small business. And I now have a fulfilling life. I'm able to volunteer in my community and make art when I'm not in pain. And CHT has given me stability, safety, and a new sense of purpose. Thank you for having me. I hope that you're able to fully fund VHCB. I'm told that it won't create as much housing as we need, so please provide even more funding if you can. There are just too many people out there looking for the stability that I have been able to find.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay there in the hot seat just in case.
How old is your cat now?
He is now 16. No, sorry. Yeah, it looked only like 25. So he's in good health.
What's his name?
His name is Minu.
Mina.
Yeah. He's a Siamese. He's very smart.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
I just had a tragedy. It's like-
I have two cats.
Yeah.
How did it take you to track him down?
Yeah.
So I lost him right before I went to the hospital. So it took me about a good month and a half.
Oh, well.
And I was calling different animal controls. I couldn't find out where they were. One office was only open on Thursdays. And so like, I was like, okay, you know, how do I find him? And I finally found him and I was very scared because he didn't have a chip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I'm really, really lucky. Yeah.
Did he he must have been so happy.
I could hear him yelling for me all the way outside in the parking lot when I was going to the police station to get him. Yeah.
That's what Saturdays want to do. They can,
Oh, Yeah.
They can themselves heard.
I'm the only one he yells at. Anybody else? He's like sweet. Great.
Or his mother, he knows he.
Yes.
So we have a couple more questions, Sean. and then
I just
Karen.
want to say thank you for having the courage to come in here and share your story with us, because that's not easy to a bunch of strangers. So
We can learn. Thank you. Thanks. Kevin?
And lessons learned. If I wanted to give a contact or telephone number or someone who finds themselves in your situation, who would you recommend we talk to first? I don't need an answer now. I would
Okay.
like an answer. I'll
Okay,
give you a card so you can contact me, but
That would be really great. Yeah,
that's quite a testimony. I appreciate that.
I would love to give you some input on that, what would really helped me.
Thank you.
It could be what organization,
Yeah.
what entity in the community.
Just where to start.
Yeah, where-
I mean, I would say Fox. Fox, yep. Or does the Champlain Inn still exist or is it being,
It'll be shelter.
okay.
I don't need to take your time now, or maybe.
Okay, that's great. We can talk.
You can talk out in the hallway.
Thank you very much.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
This-
you.
This has been very helpful. The thing that's really good for legislators to see, you know, sometimes we deal in the abstract, either in terms of policy that is made or finances in terms of money that's expended in different venues. And it's really helpful for us to see how those dollars are invested out in the community, because sometimes we don't always know. And many of our dollars impact people's lives. And that's what's really important. And we're a small state, so we're all interconnected. And I just want to thank everyone for coming here today. And thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thanks for your support of VHCD.
And for serving our beautiful state.
It's something special,
It really is.
something special. So thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
So for the committee,
Thank you very much.
I don't rush, but
that, I just want to remind folks, we're still on YouTube. We're going to go off YouTube here shortly. But for the committee, that's it for the week. And we're back here on Tuesday. So everyone have a great weekend. And thank you all